Right, so the goal of this video, really simple. At the end of it, you're just going to be in a better position to strike your irons pure solid, get that compression, more distance, and it's going to make the game a little bit more fun as well. So let's start with where we always really have to start with, the setup, just making sure that we're doing the right things around the golf ball. Now this video is specifically looking at the irons, it doesn't really apply to the driver. And when we're looking at setup, it's kind of three things that I'm looking at really, is where is the golf ball relative to me, so ball position, where is my weight distribution, and where is my head position. So if we first of all look at golf ball position, I've got myself a 6-iron here. I want that ball just forward of centre. Now when I look at the ball position, I have to look at that relative to my heels, not necessarily my toes, because my toes are often flared out. So hopefully you can see that that ball position is just forward of centre. But then when that ball position is there, I need to make sure that my head, and I'm going to reference that from my chin or my nose, hangs pretty much into the middle of my heel. So you can see that there. Now, based on where we position that ball, my head is now slightly behind it. It's no good taking your time to get the ball position spot on if your head is then somewhere over here by your back foot or vice versa over here by your front foot. So we've got ball position relative to heels, and also where is your head distributed relative to that golf ball, slightly behind it is perfect. The easiest way for you to find that position is just to stand up nice and normal. You're going to find a pretty balanced position and then you just tip over. Now we also talked about weight distribution. I would love to see that with these iron clubs that you're hitting from the ground, to have the weight a little bit more on your lead side, and to do that we're just going to push the knees and the hips forward a little bit without that affecting the head position. So now I feel a little bit more pressure on my lead side. We've got all those other checkpoints in place. The final thing, handle position should be in front of the club head. So you can see that I've got some forward shaft lean, and that is going to be my setup, which is going to give me the greatest chance of striking the ball pure every time. So the second thing, which is going to help you strike the ball better, is just looking at what you do in the backswing and not moving too far away from the positions or the relationships that we set at address. Yes, that setup's now perfect. I'm sure you're all standing to the golf ball like tour pros, but we can undo that really quickly by making some pretty weird and wonderful moves in the backswing. And the thing with golf is that if I make these weird and wonderful moves in the backswing, that doesn't mean I can't strike the ball well. You're just making it so much more difficult for yourself. Let's keep it easy, let's keep it simple. We create those relationships around the ball and we want to maintain those. Now you'll see that I've got an alignment stick in the ground. It's obviously at a very shallow angle. And when I take an address to this 6-iron, that ball sits directly under the alignment stick. The alignment stick kind of runs through the middle of that golf ball. Now, as I take a setup there, and I rehearse my backswing, as I rehearse that backswing, what's happening? Well, I've got lots of turn. I'm certainly not feeling static in my body. As I'm making that turn, I'm feeling pressure moving to my trail side, my right side, as I make that backswing. But the golf ball's staying under the stick, which means that my head is staying pretty centered. If that head is moving around, we're going to get some really instant feedback by this little practice station that I've got here. The more the head moves around, the more that your skill, your talent, your hand-eye coordination has to kick in order to get the club to strike the ball. If we're relying on skill and talent, we're not often going to be left in a great place unless you can get to the range 5 or 6 times a week and put 20, 30 hours in each week. So let's make some rehearsals with this in place and starting to feel what it's like. The key things here, how much movement I'm allowing myself to have. To keep my head relatively still, this is absolutely not the way to do it. Thinking about locking everything down, believing that that's going to keep me static, yes, it absolutely will. It really is to keep my head still like this, but I'm not going to be creating any power. You'll notice that my arms get very narrow. So whilst this might be ticking the boxes from a visual standpoint, where that ball is under the alignment stick, it's not ticking those boxes from a golf swing point. So let's have lots of movement, freedom of movement, but we can see that the head is staying nice and still. There's no reason why you can't just go ahead and hit a shot, use that alignment stick for reference. So now we come on to downswing. And in this video, there's going to be a few things that we're going to be covering, maybe 4 or 5 points. You're not going to be going to the driving range thinking of all of these points. It's just difficult to play golf when you've got that many thoughts in your head. The idea on this video is I'm trying to give you what I see as being the really key movements and skills that will allow you to strike the ball well. Your job is to go and take a video of your golf swing and maybe pull out the 1 or 2 of these that you need to work on and then focus on those during your practice. So this one is, I call this the door frame concept. Imagine that I'm setting up to a golf ball and I have got my lead foot against the inside of a door frame. So I'm stood inside of a door, if you like. I'm using this alignment stick to reference where the inside of that door frame would be. Now what I really want to try and do is, we've spoken about the backswing, but when I get to the top, I really want to be driving my legs into the inside of that door frame. What that does is it gets me to work into my lead side early in the downswing. The key message there is early. Lots of golfers that I see who struggle with ball striking when they finish their golf swing would be against this door frame. But it's absolutely no good if you get there at the end. The great ball strikers, the golfers that we see on TV, the ladies and the gents that we kind of aspire to be and play like, they close that gap early. So the idea would be, you're visualizing yourself stood in a doorway, imagining that the inside of that door frame is just outside of your left side. Yep, you can use an alignment stick if you want, and just make some rehearsals where you're closing that gap really quickly. And you can see how I'm doing that. And when I do that, I feel like I'm putting pressure under this lead side. It feels like I'm getting heavier. The weight that I've got on my lead side of the dress, this feels like I've got more because I'm starting to push into the ground. All of the things that we're covering in this video are super important, they are. But this is the one which I think can really help more of you out there, because there's not many golfers who do this well enough. I see golfers shifting too late or not shifting enough. Doing this little exercise is really going to help that. So what you would do, once you've done a few swings and you've got a few ideas, you just go ahead and hit a shot, trying to hit the inside of that door frame. Club face. We cannot talk about ball striking without discussing the club face. Now I've kind of just said that that previous point was the most important one. If it is, this is going to be a close second. We need to be paying attention to what this club face is doing in the downswing. We have to. What is going to happen is you are going to do whatever it takes to make the ball go towards your target, whether that's the green or the fairway. Believe it or not, you're actually quite skilled as a golfer. And if you've got any faults in your downswing, i.e. club face out of position, you will be, through impact, making movements that rectifies that fault, which is great. It means that you can hit the ball about straight. But just look at what's happening to my delivery and impact. Absolutely terrible. So have a look at this point that's on my club. It's referencing where my club face is pointing. If I was to put myself into this delivery position here, point the club face up to the sky, this will be open. Avoid this one, please. Do not try and copy this position. If I had to, from here, hit the ball as straight as I could, I'm probably not going to be shifting my weight forward. I mean, at this point in the swing, I should have already done that, but I'm not going to be doing that more because of the club face. And if I was to, from here, with that open club face, try and get the club to point at my target, that's how I would do it. Really breaking that lead wrist down, starting to deliver the handle too far back. And if you had got your weight forward, the chances are you'll be backing that up to try and help square that club face. So you could have done everything that we spoke about in this video perfectly up until this point. But if the face is open, you're going to be backing up, you're going to be flicking, you're going to be getting all sorts of uncomfortable positions of impact. Vice versa, if we took that club face and we pointed it way down towards the ground, so excessively closed, what would I do from here to try and make the ball go straight? Well, I would actually drive my hands probably too far forwards. This ball would go too low. But if we look at impact, that's actually going to be more desirable. It's going to help us at least strike the ball solid, hit the ground after the ball and get some nice speed into the golf ball, which is why you'll hear many golf coaches and probably many videos out there talk about how a stronger club face is often more desirable than a slightly open one. What we'd really like you to work towards is pretty square. So what is pretty square? Well, pretty square would be at this point in the golf swing where the club is level with the ground. We want that pointer pretty much horizontal, maybe slightly down towards the ground. So what you're going to do, you're going to take your setup to a golf ball. You're not going to look at the club head, but you're going to make a down swing and stop at this point and try and do what you think is correct. Have a look, where is the club face? What are you naturally delivering? Are you naturally delivering this? There's going to be a lot more of you who do, we want to be delivering something like this. So start to get a feel for what this club face position feels like and how you have to get from the top to this position. Once you're in that position, that's going to give us the greatest chance of striking the balls as well as we want, and club face is second on that list of the most important things you have to pay attention to. So let's put it all together. Just going to change the T-peg so it's a bit more visible. Got a T-peg, quite a bright one there, and this is really just how we start to turn it all into a golf swing. Like I said a minute ago, there's a few points in here. So get yourself on a grass tee, place a tee right down into the ground, take your golf ball and place your golf ball about the width of a club head behind the tee. And this is the final point, and this is something you can do on the golf course. I've coached players for years who still do this on the golf course today. All you do is you take your setup. Yes, we know that we're looking to hit the golf ball. That's what we're trying to strike. But in the swing, I'm actually looking to focus on the peg target side of the ball. Why do I want to do that? Well, it's where I want my club to land and bottom out. I want to be striking the ball and having my club go down into the ground and bottoming out where that tee is. If I look at the ball, that's often going to change what I do. So looking at the ground or looking target side of the ball and having that as your focus is a great way to sort of, incorporate all the things that we've discussed in this video and actually get it to happen quite naturally out on the golf course. Ideally, by this point, you'll have done some practice and some drills and we don't have to think about those things as much. So the final stage will be putting it all together. Can I look at that peg and actually just focus on striking that rather than the ball? And hopefully you can see that the tee kind of jumped over there somewhere. So I definitely struck that tee. Now, if you strike the tee, you're never going to miss the ball. You're always going to strike the ball if you do that. So that's the way that we, as I say, bring everything together and take it onto the golf course. That is how you strike your irons like the best players in the world.